Hi, I'm Jen Turrell, and you're about to watch a Mastering Money Matters weekly blab with the women from my Mastering Money Matters group. This is a small group for women who are freelancers, entrepreneurs, and small business owners where we discuss the specifics of the finances that apply to you. We talk about launch cycles, irregular income, quarterly estimated taxes, and other things that are a little different from your general W-2 employment situation. So if this applies to you, come on in and join the conversation. Okay, we are recording and welcome to today's blab. We have Niamh Arthur with us. And Niamh, can you tell us the name of your business and what you do?
Yeah, well, I have a couple of businesses, but my main business is a program called Tailor-Made Online Business. So I am an online business designer. I help people take that thing they've always wanted to do and figure out how to translate it into an online business, given the online economy. And then I also teach people about making videos. So I have another business called Light It Up Video Marketing, where I train people on creating videos for their business.
Oh, cool. So if someone does not yet have a website or any of their social platforms or anything set up, do you walk them through that whole process?
Yeah, well, actually, I have I kind of like to meet people where they are. So I have a kind of different approach where I'd rather get people into making money than getting them like having all the bells and whistles. So usually the first income stream that we'll create together is something where you maybe necessarily haven't set up a full website with a blog and maybe you haven't even got on all the social platforms, but usually we'll figure out what's the most impactful way we can bring our business to market, because then it's actually much easier. Like you already have an audience when you go to add Facebook and Twitter and all the other stuff. And I've always found that a kind of narrower focus where you're focusing on impact and actually creating the things you want to create, like money in the business, tends to move people a lot quicker. And so sometimes the first version of someone's business doesn't look like their giant big vision of where they want it to end up, but they can leverage it up and sort of bootstrap it that way by starting with a version that's pretty much what they want, but maybe within their ability and their means and their current situation.
Can you give us an example and tell us what the first iteration of, an imaginary person's business would look like?
Yeah, so it's always kind of about picking the model. So it's like you have the thing you want to do. So, a great example, I use this all the time because when I first realized I wanted to go into online business design was because I kept actually accidentally designing businesses for my friends, and they'd be like, Niamh, I'm really not into online business. And I was like, oh, come on. So then I was like, wait, there's people who actually want this. I was talking to a friend of mine named Nikki, who I mentioned her a lot, and her daughter wanted to become a book editor. But she was like, then I'm going into a dying business, and what's the point? I have to get all the education, then I go and become an editor, and then edit. The big publishing houses are really under pressure, and so I was saying to her, well, why not start as a editor for the giant growing market of people who are self-publishing, because the self-publishers are what are killing the larger publishing houses. So then for her, it's kind of looking at the first step. So the first thing she needs is the asset of the actual ability. So she needed to go and get training. She needed to go and actually get certification as an editor. And then we were looking at, the various models that she could create from that. So from that, she could kind of end up with a business where she has a big blog and she can do one-on-one services, or, maybe have a training program, have a membership site. So it's kind of looking at all those various things. But actually one of the easiest places to start is one-on-one, is saying, okay, I have this ability to edit. Here's how much I cost. You're probably going to cost a little bit less at the start as you're gaining your first few people, but you can go out and kind of set up shop as a one-on-one editor first, and then she could from there say, okay, now I have a few clients. I've learned a lot from those clients. Now I'm going to put together a package that is maybe a program that teaches people how to do the basics of this themselves, or it could be a really small program that's how to find and hire a good editor. And it's kind of always, it's finding that thing. So I always teach in, I have so many structures in my head, but I always teach in the business wheel that you really just have to align an income stream with an audience a message that shows them how that your income stream is going to help them in their life, than with a form of marketing that you can do given your current circumstances.
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting one. And looking at the book industry right now, I mean, I kind of feel like Stu and I are in the music industry, which is something that for a long time people were saying that like vinyl records were dead. And there was a while where it really seemed like they were. We paused for a bit, but we kept on doing them. And I feel like the print book industry is something else that everyone said, you know, like all this technology, all these computers, we're going to be paperless. We're going to not have books anymore. You know, it's only going to be video, and there's only going to be streaming music. And none of those things have come true. I actually feel like the book industry, I buy new books all the time. And yeah, I do use my audible.com account for listening in the car. But I also, like any book that when I listen to it, like these are sort of my books that I keep near me all the time back here. And then I actually have a lot more books.
Yeah, I have like,
and then our built-in bookshelf, like our family bookshelf, is actually upstairs and covers an entire wall. And I don't feel like it's waned. I feel like having a book is something that everyone wants to have now. It's like, oh, I'm an author. Everyone wants to.
I wish I even, like, normally I have my Kindle with me at all times, but I have this Kindle and I'm like, it's my favorite prized possession because I love reading. That's what I do for fun. You know, my best friend has, like, her business is running a book club, you know, and so she always talks about is finding your happy place in a book. And for me, it's definitely my happy place. I do things like I buy, you know, Kindle Unlimited, where sometimes you have to like hunt through to find the good stuff, but you can, you know, pay $10 a month and then you can read as many books as you want. And I found some really amazing authors that way. And I know that in the traditional model, they probably wouldn't have ever been published. You know, so actually all of the industries, I'm a huge, huge economy nerd. Like my dad actually is an economist. That's, you know, what I grew up with. He studied complexity in the economy, which is all about weird, organic, changing systems and how what people do within the system affects the system. And it's all this big, mushy, beautiful mess. And I feel like that's what the online economy is like. So I love watching it and looking at the patterns and seeing how things shift and change. And all these industries are not dying. People want entertainment as much as they always have, but they're shifting. And so when you understand the shift, it opens up these greater opportunities. You just have to like open your mind to how you're looking at it, you know? So there's so much possibility for helping people in a much more individual way because people can find you. So you can say, I am an editor for self-published books. You could say, I'm an editor for young adult self-published paranormal authors, you know, and you'd still have a really big market and actually probably do even better because people would be like, oh, that's me, you know, I found my perfect person, you know. So now we're all really wanting to find those things that speak to us and that we feel like helps give us that sense of community and that sense of identity. Like for me, that's why I love being in with your stuff, Jen. It's just, you know, it's that feeling of, oh, I found more of my people and we're talking about a topic that I'm interested in, you know. And so I think this actually only creates more opportunity. And then for me, a lot of what helping someone tailor make a business is about is helping them see it from a way they haven't seen it before. So quite often they come to me and they're like, well, they have one idea in their head of how it could work. And then I can kind of help them see, oh, you could take that thing, shift it to a slightly different market or shift it to a slightly different delivery source. A lot of people don't start businesses because they're like, I have to go set up a website. But there's a lot of businesses that are run strictly as like a paid Facebook group where all you need is PayPal and that's it, you know? So you can really up and down the technology level based on your abilities.
Well, and you know what? This is totally personal, but I'm going to bring it up because I think it is so along the lines of what you're saying. So my daughter, my youngest daughter is 6 years old and she loves doing art. And I have a lot of her art here in my room. I'm looking around at tons of it, like that over there. And my oldest,
our daughters would get along. Mine is obsessed with art and she's always bringing me stuff. She even said that the other day. She couldn't find a place to put down her latest thing and she went, I give you so much stuff, Mommy.
And part of what we've been doing with it is because my kids love Snapchat. So we've been making our stories, her making things. Like yesterday, even though we were after Easter, she watched Crafty and she wanted to do these Star Wars eggs. So we made the Star Wars eggs and she had me take pictures of each one and then we had pictures of them all together. We took like toilet paper, cardboard tubes and cut them into 3 to be little stands for all the eggs and stuff like that. And we were doing this, and one of my friends is an illustrator who illustrates books. She did a bunch of record covers for me years ago. So I have some of her art in our house, and then we buy all of her books. And Miffy has started making little books where she'll put illustrated by, and then she puts Jen Karachi because the woman's name is Jen Karachi. But I was like, oh, we should put illustrated by Miffy. And this morning I woke up really early, and I was thinking about a woman in another group that we're in was talking about her daughter who's recovering from a traumatic brain injury.
Yes, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I suggested that they do Redbubble to start getting her artwork out there, to have a way for it to go out. And then I was like, Miffy really wants to be an illustrator right now, like not 10 years from now, not 20 years from now.
Yes.
It's like, why don't I start her a Redbubble site? We can tell all our family and friends if anyone wants to buy cards or mugs, or like I could,
I'm writing that down.
And I was like, why should I make her wait? Like, she doesn't have to wait. And it's kind of like all of us who want to be off. Like I was a creative writing major in school, and I always wanted to be there. And let me show you this right here, actually. Hang on. This is one of my books. It's up on my shelf right now. That needs some massive editing, and that is kind of a mess. It's a novel.
Well, I know an editor.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many of us who have a book in the works. I'm sitting on a stability ball. That's why I'm bouncing here. That would love to get it out, and it's like we can now. I mean, we may need some help getting it together.
Like, we can do almost anything now, because there's this like weird mesh of now, like, a lot of people talk about the middleman has been taken away. So before, you needed to get something up and published, you needed to like have an agent decide to sign you. And then you need to have like a publisher decide to take you on. And there's all these people in between the artist and the person receiving the art. And now all those people are like being removed, but it's mostly because of technology. There's all these peer platforms, like for everything that you could want to do. Like, the challenge is knowing about them. So it's like, I didn't know about Redbubble, and my daughter's so into art, and it's like, oh, that would be amazing. Just like, she really wants to create flower pots. She wants to sell flower pots. I've been talking to her about being an entrepreneur, and we've been talking about selling things to people. And then she wanted to sell all her clothes. And I was like, well, those would be good to give to people, who need that. And so we've been kind of going through learning about this, and she decided she wanted to start a shop selling what she called the flower pot. And she took Coke bottles, 2-liter Coke bottles, and cut them in half. And she was like, these will make perfect flower pots. I was like, I don't know if anyone's going to buy those ones yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah, that she could use them herself at your house to make pretty flowers. I mean, that could be a start. The other thing that's funny with Miffy is we watch Crafty Carol and Cool School a lot, and she has started talking as if she is on her own YouTube channel. Once, like, we were doing a Snapchat about something she made, and then she goes, "Click below." And I was like, Miffy, there is no click below. But it was subscribe to my channel, because she's got
their calls to action embedded in their psyche.
But again, I thought, part of me doesn't quite, I'm not sure about a YouTube channel, because that is a lot of potential exposure for a 6-year-old. But that, I was like, she has it in her head. There's no barrier to her. She's like, she sees Charlie's Crafty Kitchen. Do you know those two girls? This is
no.
It was in Forbes magazine. Okay, I'm gonna tell everybody about this. This is in Forbes magazine, and I went and clicked on it because I was like, oh, it's the highest earning monthly YouTube channel in terms of ad revenue in the cooking section right now. And it's run by an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. It's called Charlie's Crafty Kitchen. They're Australian. And they sing their own little song. It's like, welcome to Charlie's Crafty Kitchen, where and there's actually no cooking involved. It's all non-heat, because they're 5 and 8. So they're like putting things together, dipping things. Maybe they have chocolate that's been melted and they dip a marshmallow in it, and it's been dyed yellow, and then they put an eyeball and like a little strip around it, and now it's a minion marshmallow, and they eat it. They use a lot of edible markers and edible eyeballs, just like little candy things. But it's so cute, and there's so much product placement, and the ad revenue, like there's over 2 million subscribers to this show, and Miffy loved it too, and immediately wanted to make some of these things and eat lots of sugar. And I was like, but it said they make over $230,000 a month. On the
my gosh, that's amazing.
I know. So part of me was like, oh my gosh, my kids are just as cute, and they do such awesome. I know. But then part of me is like, do I really want to, like, I don't know if I want to actually, like, hawk my kids' wares.
Yeah, no, it's such a fine line.
Yeah, at the same time, I don't want to be like, you can't do this, because she totally can do some of these things. It's just protecting the innocence in some ways. And like,
yeah, I think it's kind of like figuring out where your boundaries are. And also like, I feel like we have to also realize that as they're growing up, our boundaries are going to be really different from their boundaries. So it's kind of about like, you know, maintaining whatever levels of privacy. Like I never talk online about exactly where I live or exactly where they go to school and stuff like that. But then I have videos of my kids that I happily put up online. But yeah, like it's really interesting how quickly they take the ideas on and they want to run with it. Like I have a friend whose daughter recently created a YouTube channel all about doing science experiments. She got kitchen science experiment kit for Christmas, and she started to do, she called it Fun with Hannah, and she started this channel called Fun with Hannah. And my kids saw this and they thought it was the most amazing thing they've ever seen. And my daughter could repeat word for word every single step. She was like, well, Hannah said to do this. And then she wanted to make a video. So we made a video, sent it back to Hannah. And then Hannah was, of course, really chuffed that she had influenced other kids. So it's like they're entering into this amazing world. And, you know, you notice like each month there's more and more things added that make things easier and easier for us to go and do the things we want to do. It's just about like getting your brain to think that way. Like our kids naturally have it. They're like, why not just go start a YouTube channel, and why not make flower pots, because I think they're great, so people will love them, you know. And it's like,
why not illustrate a book right now at 6 years old? Why wait till you're 30 or something? Or why go to high school first? But one thing I do worry about is when I see issues that come up for teenagers with oversharing, because I'm like, if this had existed when I was a teenager and there was like photographic evidence of the stupid things that I did,
I know.
I worry about that a little, but
well, it's helpful to remember that we did all the stupid things. Like regardless of whether we were sharing or not, we were probably doing as much stupid stuff. It's just there wasn't a record of that.
Yeah, you could kind of leave your past behind you a little easier.
Get away with it. And also it's like, I was talking, my brother was visiting recently, we were talking about all the crazy things we did as kids, and we're like, or as teenagers, and we're like, you know, the things your parents never know about. Hopefully my parents won't find blab. You know? But yeah, and you're like, oh wow, I got away with a lot, and they had no idea about any of this. It's like now you can monitor your kids and stuff. It's weird.
Yeah, you know where they are with their devices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've gotten slightly off track there.
Yes.
but yeah, it is interesting that so many people. I mean, it is so low barrier to entry in so many ways, and yet finding the people who want what you have can be hard because there's so much noise in the
that's the biggest challenge. So there's like, you know, I would, because people will say go follow your passion, but if you just follow your passion, you're very likely to just fall flat on your face, because what you're passionate about isn't necessarily what someone else wants or needs. And no one buys, well, sometimes you buy passion, but normally you're buying what you want or need. So it's like how can you fit what it is that you have with the kind of wants and needs of someone else. So I always have that like little diagram, and the overlapping bit is your sweet spot, where it's like market viability meets what it is you actually want to do. And I found that like how you find people, it's like, it's really about letting them know that like how what it is that you have to offer is going to fit into their life. So you know, there's tons of ways that people do this. The most obvious way is through niching, is through saying, you know, I am an editor, and I am an editor for paranormal young adult Hunger Games style authors, you know, and it's like you probably have a small section, but as soon as someone sees your messaging, they go, that's me, and they instantly want to buy. So if you're a little more broad, it becomes harder. And I find most of us, like, we tend towards the broad. We don't like to limit ourselves. We like to feel like open and free, and like tailor-made online business, super, super broad. It's my broadest thing that I do. It's my biggest passion, but it's a challenge getting people to see how can this help them, you know? So I find that the most powerful thing is using impact pieces in your marketing. So an impact piece is something where you get someone to experience and to really feel what it's going to be like to own your product or own your service. So examples would be like when people do launches, they do video series. So that's like a preview of what your bigger course is going to be. That's somewhat impactful. More impactful is something like a challenge, because in a challenge, you have people's focus and attention for a particular amount of time. You're helping them solve a problem in that particular amount of time. And by the end of it, you've generated them respecting you, them feeling like they know you, them feeling like they understand your work. And then it's just a matter of them deciding, yes, this is for me, or it's not. And I love that, because then the marketing is not about using the perfect words or being manipulative or making them feel a certain thing at a certain time. It's like, if you can really show people what you have through some form of impact piece. And I mean, the classic example is having home parties where you bring people over and get them to play with whatever it is that you offer. And people make a lot of sales that way. It's not very, very much fun. It's not what a lot of us would want to do, but these things, they really do work. So it's like figuring out what kind of impact piece you want to do to bring your thing to market so that people can really see how is this going to help me? And I find that if you put that in, instead of like just hammering blogs and hammering videos and just getting all the traffic over and over, it's like these small things can really build your business really quickly. And then you're on a new level. And then you have this whole bunch of people who know you really well. And then at that point is when you start bringing in the other stuff. But I know I'm a little bit of a heretic in that respect. I don't usually have people go on that standard setup. I used to start people on a blog, but I find it's like the amount of work that you have to do to begin to get going was painful for them. And then that pain led to people dropping off and saying, you know what, I'm not cut out for this. And it's not that it's not hard work any other way, but it's like if you can be really smart about how you're positioning things and how you're doing things so that, you know, you're using the things that you have and the abilities that you have. And yeah, I mean, it's powerful. I could talk about this all day. But
I think that's really important too, looking at like what is easier for them to do. Because I know like when I was trying to blog on my website, I was also trying to write articles and send them out other places. My blog ended up being the last place that I posted something until I started my podcast, and it became where I
that's your thing.
Have my links and everything. And so now every week I have 2 pieces of content go on there that you can either listen to or read. And that changed everything for me. Like now I have something to mail my newsletter about every week, twice a week at least.
Yeah.
More if we're doing something else. And that really changed it. So I was like, oh, talking into a microphone, I can do that. Like, or scoping or blabbing. Like these are so much easier for me. Even though I like to think of myself as someone who likes to write. There's
so
what'd you say?
I'm the same. It's like I think of myself as a writer, but for me it's video. You know, video is just it's my little happy place online. When I discovered video, it was like everything got so much easier because it's so impactful, and it's how my voice wants to come out. It's quite natural for me. And actually only recently, the other day, I'd been holding off on doing Facebook Live, and I had one excuse after another. And I was like, it's just that I'm out of the habit of doing live things. I've been doing lots and lots of recorded things. So I just went on it. And it was so nice, like to be able to see my friends and names that I knew popping in saying hello. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So I am now like, I think I found a new happy place.
I haven't done Facebook Live yet. I've still liked Periscope. Like actually right before I got on here, I Periscoped real quick about the U.S. women's national soccer team suing for equal pay, because I was really excited about that. But yeah, it does not occur to me to go do Facebook Live. I just haven't tried it yet. I don't even know how to do it yet.
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where I really think each person has to sort of find where they feel good, and I've always felt good on Facebook. Like, so I've actually put a really conscious effort. For me, when I first started my first business, well, like my 4th business, but the first one that worked, I created a group in Facebook. This was like 5 years ago or something at this point, 4 or 5 years ago. So I created a group, and that was my impact piece. Was I would go out and make friends, and I would continuously grow this group. And I had like things we did every day of the week. And then on a Friday, we would have a free for all of promos, and I would promote my business. And because I was the group leader, I would get like anyone who was interested would come into my business. So that worked really, really well. And then I was like, for me, I'm not very good at social media. I'm scatterbrained, and I'm not very good at like going on and doing the thing. And I don't love pre-planning it. I kind of like to be really flowy in my business. So I find that I work really well when I'm just like allowing it to be whatever it's going to be, but that over time, so I had to let go of the groups and I started to do video. And then over time I found that I still was like gathering people on Facebook. It's like, it's better than my email list, you know? So I absolutely find that, that's where I communicate most with people. So I've been building that over time. So because all my audience is there, going live to them on Facebook makes tons and tons of sense. Also, the algorithms love it.
I'm gonna have to give it a try.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've got an enormous audience on Facebook for sure. I think it's like it gets really hard when our audience is spread over lots of different places, because we'll be like, well, I do this thing over here and it generates me a couple of sales. But if we took that same energy and put it somewhere where we have like this other big audience, we'd probably do even better. So it's like kind of playing around. There's lots of playing around and finding that sweet spot.
Though I do feel kind of frustrated with the whole biz page thing. You know, like I made a business page and I post things there. I continue to post things there. A few people like things now and then. A few people see them, a few engage. But that almost seems like such an afterthought because there's a little engagement there. And then, I have our group that we're in, and I have a free group that I started for my podcast. But I held off starting a free group for a long time because I felt like there were just so many groups on there. I'm in so many groups. And I kept trying to join other people's groups. Like if clients of mine started groups and I wanted to go be supportive, I would join their group. Yeah. Even right now, I probably should do a group declutter of the ones I don't actually go into because I get notifications of just so many things.
I know.
I really felt like I wanted to hold off until I had a real reason. So I started my paid group first and I was like, okay, obviously there's a reason for this. We want to be in one where we can talk. Yeah. And then the free group, I started to try to, interact with listeners of the podcast. But yeah, I feel like I go into lots of other people's groups in different ways, and I have lots of connections on Facebook, but I don't really have a centralized place to talk to them all. I mean, I guess my personal page.
I find the personal page okay, so like, disclaimer, we're supposed to say that you can't use your personal page for business because that's what people will tell you that Facebook can possibly block you. I personally, I have a ton of friends who it's entirely business. I don't think I've ever seen anyone blocked for using their personal page for business. But I just want to throw that out there because I don't want people to feel that, something happened and Niamh suggested I use my personal page. But I use my personal page. I've used it for years. I have a business page, but if you go on the business, it's not a very good representation of me because if you go on the business page, it basically looks like a wasteland. Every now and again I have a launch and I'll use it for promoted posts and I'll use it for some Facebook ads, but all the good stuff happens, with my friends list. So I keep it fairly clean. I have 3 groups, but I have my 2 paid groups, one for my video marketing people who are amazing. It's this wonderful, amazing community. And then one for the tailor-made people. And, we're kind of talking about the different, the weekly modules and the topics together. And we have Zooms together and stuff. And then I have a free group, which is for the challenge. But what I do, I do a video challenge every 3 or 4 months just to help people get comfortable on video. And it's really, really fun. We do it for 30 days. I give a prompt. They all record a video every day. So it's this really intense month of crazy video making and people have all these breakthroughs and it's amazing. But what I do is I just say this group will go dormant in between challenges because I don't want to have to manage a lot of groups and I'd rather kind of centralize the impact around particular times and then let people know, I have tons of people messaging me every day asking when's the next challenge. And I just say, well, go into the group. It's going to start mid-May or something. But yeah, that's really been working for me because I have to find ways, I could go on Facebook and never come off it. You know what I mean? You have to find these ways to manage.
Yeah. So you do a 30-day challenge because when you were talking about challenges, I was thinking about in my head all the challenges I've signed up for. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, the 30-day ones, a lot of times I make a folder for those emails and I'm trying to think if there's
I don't email.
You don't email. You just do it in the group? Okay, I'm trying to think, is there any 30-day challenge that I've really stuck with it the whole time? I did do Holly G's video challenge, which was 15 days, and I managed to do every day of that because if you did every day, you could potentially win a session with her or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first video challenge I ever did. And that was before I got on Periscope and before these different things. And it was just, taking my phone, and every post was under a minute. It was something I could do. I didn't have to edit. I didn't have to put an intro, because I did have all these barriers to getting on video before doing her challenge. And I did feel like it helped me a lot to get past the idea that I had to put on makeup. Like we did one from the gym,
I know.
But the super long challenges I struggle with because something comes up someday and I forget. So see how many people make it through? Well, if you're doing it.
Yeah. So last time, so I'd say about of all the people in the group, I had about 25 to 30% made it the whole way to the end.
Oh, that's good.
But there's a lot of little magical things. Like I have a workshop. So I tell everyone, if you complete all 30 days, you can attend the workshop at the end. And the workshop is really good, so I put a lot of effort and a lot of work into it. And so then I find that maybe half of the people that start finish. But yeah, because it's they're creating this amazing community. Because what's really interesting is because they're interacting with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So they're creating their videos, but then they're watching 3 or 4 other people, and the friendships and the bonds and the connections that are made. It's because video is powerful. Mm-hmm. And when you're getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah. So you're having all these breakthroughs yourself, but then also you're watching other people have breakthroughs. There is nothing like watching other people have breakthroughs. It just makes me makes me just go all tingly just even thinking about it, because it's just this amazing stuff happening, and it's people, you're watching them actually literally transform over the 30 days. So the community encourages each other to stay in it. So it's you don't I kind of just don't worry about how many people start and how many people finish.
Mm-hmm.
But I do find that in terms of what I usually offer to them, I usually have a very high conversion rate. So it's definitely something that's really helpful.
The other day I did sit down and wrote what I called the easiest ever money challenge, but I ended up deciding to put it into our weekly prompts. I was like, let's test it out in the MMM. I actually test lots of things out on you guys. How does this work? Do people respond? Are they doing it? Are they getting it done? Does it need to be presented differently? That kind of thing. But I have never actually done a challenge. So maybe I should take our weekly prompts and go and.
Yeah, and you can play around. If you want to do a short challenges work too. It's for me, I don't ever want to feel like I have to kind of try and manipulate the sale. So I know, for me, if I over deliver, I know my strengths. My strengths are my training, and that over time people really get to know me. And my strength is not actually really in making the sale, but I know if I deliver training for long enough and I keep them in my space long enough, they go, wow, this training's really good. And then it's quite easy for them to move on to the next step, or just continue to be a fan. And then those people go and tell their friends about the challenge, because the challenge is super, super impactful. Mm-hmm. So it's that's what you're always looking for in anything you're doing, is how much is this impacting people? How much are they having an experience that they are going to go and talk about and take away? Because the first time I set up the challenge, it was hard to get people in it. I had to be this is why you want to do it, guys. Come get comfortable on camera. It's going to help your business, all this stuff. And then the second time I did one post about it, and all these people from the first challenge went and told their friends, and that brought all of these other people into the challenge. So then it's the third, I'm going to be starting the third one in May, and I literally have people asking me every day about it, and people saying, I have friends interested, and I'm already oh my gosh, this is gonna be intense. It's really, really intense, but fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So outside of this blab, you and I were talking the other day about something that you used to do, which I thought might be interesting to people watching or watching the replay too, because I feel like in the entrepreneur groups, there are a lot of people who kind of tentatively enter entrepreneurship or self-employment through MLMs, the multi-level marketing, but want to do more, want to have their own business eventually. But that's kind of a, what do you think? It's kind of a crutch.
Secondary.
There's already this company, they have marketing materials, they have these things. So you're kind of set up in a way. And I know you were talking about working with some people to set those things up, and then realizing that you were setting them up to make the money so they could set up their own business. and then just cut out, again, we're talking about cutting out the middleman with technology and all these things. Like you can cut out the middleman and help them just set up the business they really want to.
Yeah, that's actually really it. It's the middleman. So it's like, that's where I started entrepreneurship myself, is in network marketing. And so I went around to a few different companies, and then I eventually found a company that it really worked for me. Like they were one of the first companies to actually sell blogs as their product. So that's what I was doing, and I really enjoyed it, and I started to create a lot of success. And I was having all of these people come into my business. I had like 2 to 5 new people a day. I was making, like 6 figures a year with it really quickly. And what I found was, it was like, what was so exciting for me was realizing that my sort of purpose is to help people, connect to who they truly are through work that's fulfilling for them. Mm-hmm. And this was fulfilling for me. And like, it's such a tough question, because that was my path in. So I feel like I don't want to knock that pathway. It's a really powerful learning experience. But what I found was, people would come to me and they'd say, I want to start a center for women, and this is what it's going to do, and it's going to help these particular people. Or, someone else is like, I want to create a place for people who are interested in karate, or like there's all these different things people eventually wanted to do, and they had their eventual dreams. Mm-hmm. And they'd say, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make money in the network marketing business, and then that's going to fund me doing this business passion that I have. And so, and what I realized was like, I started to read. Actually, what happened was I didn't read for years after becoming a mom. And then I was like, I miss reading. I love it. So I set myself a challenge to read 100 books in a year. And about halfway through the year, I was like, oh no, now I have to do what I actually want to do. Like all the books, like they really inspired me. But they made me realize that if that's really what I wanted to do, that's what I had to do. So I started to help people see how they could take what they wanted to do and like shrink it down to something that they could do now, which is like what we were talking about at the start. So it's like, how can you take that big dream and do it within the existing structures in the online economy? And there's like all kinds of ways to do it. And as soon as I switched, it was hard to switch because you're in this place where everyone's like, I was really surprised by how hard it was to create stuff myself, that like, it's easy to sell something someone else created. And something you created brings all this other emotional baggage out. Mm-hmm. But the fulfillment factor,
you're more invested in the product.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I made this. And then if someone, like decides they don't want it or whatever, it feels like a personal rejection. Like if you're talking to someone, they're like, yeah, I might get it. And then they choose not to. You're like, oh, ouch. And then it's like remembering they're not rejecting you, Niamh. They're not rejecting your baby. They're making their own choices. Mm-hmm. So I found that it was a hard transition. And then also, not everyone approved of what I was doing. And there's been a bit of pushback, and people, I think sometimes when you choose to do something different from what someone else is choosing, they feel attacked. Like there's not many ways there's not a lot you can do about it. You have to just say, you know what, got to do my thing. Mm-hmm. But it's been really interesting. So I don't try and take anyone away from that world, but a lot of people who come to me, it's like they have kind of tried some network marketing stuff. Like, it really doesn't feel like me. I want people to create businesses that feel entirely like them, where you don't have to compromise yourself. I don't want to say that it's bad. I really don't. But it's like, you do have to adjust to sell someone else's stuff, unless it's like a product that you've used over and over and you're like, okay, you know what? I love this thing. It's part of me. I just want to tell people about it. And you would tell them about it anyway, then fine. But if you have to adjust what you're saying to encourage people to buy something, it's always going to feel bad, and I want people to feel really amazing and empowered in their businesses.
So a little while ago, just a couple of years ago, before we moved to where we live now, a neighbor who was a very, very modest mother of 4, very church-going, always wore long skirts, had very long hair, just really did not, this seemed so out of character when she came over and invited me to a sex toy party at her house that she was.
That would surprise me.
Her party, but it was for sex toys. And she was like, "We're all married women. It's just we got to liven it up in bed, after you have a few kids." And I was, I was so shocked by how different what she gave me, the invite with the marketing
from her
outward. But at the same time, I was like, well, go you. Like, I am impressed that this is what you and your very conservative husband do. But when you brought up the sort of like difference in marketing approach and the personality, I instantly thought of her. And I didn't go. We actually moved right around that time, but I always
like, oh no, my neighbor's into sex toys. Let's move.
That wasn't the reason. We were going to move anyways. We were going from a rented place to buying our own place, so it was yeah. But that was interesting, and I do kind of wonder. Like, I wonder if she's still doing that. I wonder if she's moved on to something else. But I feel like for a lot of women working at home with kids, that seems like a safe entree into making money from home without doing like weird scammy work online things. There's a product that you're selling, but you have some support. You figure you have a mentor. I mean, I haven't actually done one of those myself, but I can see having some kind of structure set up there already can be very appealing. That's why I kind of thought that there might be people who have entered into this that way and would hear your story and be like, oh yeah, I could cut out this middleman and make my own product, make something that I mean,
that's how I started. I don't think I would have, I wouldn't have had the knowledge to go and start this business when I started, because it's like I learned everything along the way, and so I think it's a really, really good entry, absolutely. But what I was finding was it's just my messaging was no longer matching up. But I think anyone who wants to do something, it's a great place to start. It's just being really conscious about choosing something that feels like you, because the one pattern that I do see happening is that people will not do the things they need to do to become successful because they're not feeling good. Like something's not jiving on the inside. So, I actually have some really simple techniques that, about decision making to help people ensure that they're making decisions that are right for them. The simplest one is the sway test. I mean, just going to throw this out there in case anyone has trouble making decisions and gets kind of caught up in the language and the hype and all this stuff. It's like, if you're not sure if something's for you, you can really quickly tell if it's for you by doing really simple body check kind of tests. So, and this is all really scientific. It's not woo-woo or anything, but the sway test is where you stand up and you stand really solid on your 2 feet and you ask a question. And the first question to ask is, is your name, is my name Niamh, or whatever your name is. And then so you just stay really centered for a minute, and then you breathe in and then out very slowly twice. And usually on the second breath out, you will either kind of feel pulled forward from your chest, or you'll feel gently pushed backwards. So that will tell you your yes or no. Most people, yes is forward. If you're pulled forward when you say is my name and you insert your own name. And then you can do it again and ask, is my name Jen? And if it's not Jen, then you'll probably get your no response. And then you can use that. You can test for all kinds of things for yes, no. This works really well hand in hand with decluttering. If you're do I love this thing? Or, but you can work it right the way up to bigger decisions. And so I find that that's really helpful.
That's an interesting one. There was someone who I talked to a while ago. Who was it? She had this test she would do with her fingers. There was a similar one where she would just you rub your fingers like this and it's nice and smooth and there's no real friction. And then she would say, is my name Jen? Still no friction. Is my name Niamh? And then you get just a little friction.
Oh, interesting. A new one.
Oh, is that what it is, Elshvina? Yeah, I didn't really know. She was just telling me about this thing and I was like, oh, that's an interesting. So I tried it out.
Yeah.
The funny thing is though, I feel like when I was super stressed about the question and I had a lot riding on it, I couldn't feel confident that it was working.
That is that's a really, really hyper awareness one. I usually I don't even bother to sway anymore. I do internal check where I just feel is basically if my chest clenches, it's a no. And if I feel nervous but somewhat open, then it's a yes. But yeah, with complicated stuff, I can't do it. So then I have to get up and sway. And so what I do is I will break it down. So if it's a really complex question and there's a lot riding on it, it's like break down pieces of it. So like I was buying a computer, so it was like, okay, do I want a Mac or a PC? Okay, I want a Mac. Do I want a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air? So it's like you can break it down to the little things. Do I want to finance it this way or that way? So sometimes it's like if you're getting a confused response, it's because some aspect isn't right for you. Like if we're talking about business, it could be that maybe you don't want to market in the way you're marketing, but everything else is great. Like maybe you just want a fresh audience, or you're not loving who it is that you're talking to, but you do love what you're selling, So it's kind of like you can piece your way there bit by bit. It's definitely challenging, but it's worth doing because in the end you end up feeling a lot more, I don't know, in line. Hi, Elshmina.
Hi.
I actually have to hop off, guys, because I have a client in 4 minutes. So
okay, totally good.
But this was
I was
great.
going to mention too, Essentialism. I'm reading the book Essentialism, and he's totally of the anything that isn't absolutely a yes, make it a no, just to trim down all the crazy in our lives, which I really liked that idea too. I was like, oh yeah, there's so many things where I'm kind of like, maybe. But and we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks, Jen. Bye.
If you want to find out more about joining Mastering Money Matters yourself, go to my website, jenturrell.com, and click on the Mastering Money Matters button in the navigation bar.
We're the ones that are putting so much thought into it because we're still worried about, well, what are they going to think about us? And if you put all that stuff down, you really do have total freedom. Like if you're willing to just, well, what do I want to wear?